Emily Carter had always been a woman of routine. Every morning, she woke up at 6 a.m., went for a run, and then headed to the small clinic she owned in the heart of the town. She loved her work, helping people, healing wounds, and bringing comfort to those in pain. But her life was predictable, and sometimes she wondered if something was missing. She had dedicated herself to her career, but the long hours and constant demands left little room for anything else. Her apartment was quiet, her evenings lonely, and her heart yearned for something she couldn't quite name. One rainy afternoon, as Emily was closing up the clinic, she heard a faint whimper outside the door. She opened it to find a tiny, shivering puppy sitting on the steps. His fur was matted, and his big brown eyes looked up at her with a mixture of fear and hope. Emily's heart melted instantly. "Hey there, little guy," she said softly, kneeling down to scoop him up. "Where did you come from?" The puppy nuzzled into her arms, his cold nose pressing against her neck. Emily couldn't leave him out in the rain, so she brought him inside, dried him off, and gave him some leftover chicken from her lunch. The puppy devoured it hungrily, wagging his tail as if to say thank you. "I guess you're staying with me tonight," Emily said with a smile. The next morning, Emily planned to take the puppy to the local shelter. But as she got ready for work, the little dog followed her everywhere, down the hallway, into the kitchen, and even to the front door. When she tried to leave, he sat by her feet, looking up at her with those soulful eyes. "Oh no," Emily said, laughing. "You're not coming to work with me." But the puppy had other plans. As soon as she opened the door, he darted out and trotted ahead of her, stopping every few steps to make sure she was following. Emily sighed, realizing she had no choice but to bring him along. At the clinic, the puppy quickly became the center of attention. Patients smiled as they watched him wag his tail and greet everyone who walked in. Even the grumpiest of patients couldn't resist his charm. Emily decided to name him Buddy, and it didn't take long for him to become a permanent fixture at the clinic. Over the next few weeks, Buddy proved to be more than just a cute distraction. He had an uncanny ability to sense when someone was in pain or feeling down. He would sit quietly beside patients, letting them pet him as they waited for their appointments. Children who were afraid of needles would calm down when Buddy nuzzled their hands. Elderly patients would light up when he rested his head on their laps. One day, a young boy named Tommy came into the clinic with a deep cut on his arm. He was terrified and refused to let Emily near him. But Buddy, sensing Tommy's fear, trotted over and placed his paw on the boy's knee. Tommy stopped crying and reached out to pet him. With Buddy by his side, Tommy bravely let Emily clean and bandage his wound. "Thank you, Buddy," Tommy said, hugging the puppy before he left. Emily watched the interaction with a lump in her throat. She realized that Buddy wasn't just a dog. He was a healer, just like her. As the months went by, Buddy became a local legend. People would come to the clinic just to see him, and Emily's patient list grew longer than ever. But more importantly, Buddy brought joy and comfort to everyone he met. He had a way of making people feel seen and loved, even on their darkest days. One evening, as Emily sat in her office finishing up paperwork, Buddy trotted in and placed his head on her lap. She looked down at him, her heart swelling with gratitude. "You know, Buddy," she said, scratching behind his ears, "I thought I was the one saving you that day in the rain, but really you've been saving me all along." Buddy wagged his tail, his eyes filled with love. In that moment, Emily realized that Buddy had filled the void she hadn't even known was there. He had brought purpose, joy, and unconditional love into her life. One day, a young woman named Sarah came into the clinic. She was visibly nervous, clutching her stomach and avoiding eye contact. Emily greeted her warmly and asked how she could help. I think I might be pregnant," Sarah stammered, "but I'm scared. I don't know what to do." Emily listened patiently, offering reassurance and support. As Sarah spoke, Buddy quietly approached and rested his head on her lap. Sarah's tense shoulders relaxed, and she began to cry. "It's going to be okay," Emily said gently. "We'll figure this out together." With Buddy by her side, Sarah found the courage to face her fears. Emily arranged for her to see a specialist and connected her with resources for expectant mothers. Over the next few months, Sarah became a regular at the clinic, and Buddy was always there to greet her with a wagging tail. When Sarah's baby was born, she brought the newborn to the clinic to meet Emily and Buddy. Tears filled Emily's eyes as she held the tiny bundle in her arms. "Thank you," Sarah said, her voice trembling. "I don't know what I would have done without you and Buddy." One stormy night, as Emily and Buddy were leaving the clinic, they heard a loud crash nearby. Emily grabbed her medical bag and rushed toward the sound, Buddy close behind. They found a car that had skidded off the road and crashed into a tree. Emily quickly assessed the situation. The driver, a middle-aged man, was unconscious but breathing. She called for an ambulance and began administering first aid. Buddy stayed by her side, his presence calming her as she worked. When the ambulance arrived, the paramedics praised Emily for her quick thinking. "You saved his life," one of them said. Emily shook her head. "I couldn't have done it without Buddy," she replied, looking down at the loyal dog by her side. Years passed and Buddy grew older. His steps became slower, and his fur turned gray, but his spirit remained as bright as ever. He continued to greet patients at the clinic, his tail wagging with the same enthusiasm as the day he first arrived. When Buddy finally passed away, the entire town mourned. Patients shared stories of how he had comforted them during their hardest times. Emily felt the loss deeply, but she knew Buddy's legacy would live on. In his memory, she started a program called Buddy's Paws, where therapy dogs visited hospitals, schools, and nursing homes. The program brought comfort to countless people, just as Buddy had done. And every evening, as Emily closed up the clinic, she would look at the framed photo of Buddy on her desk and smile. He had been more than a dog. He had been her partner, her friend, and her greatest teacher. One day, a young girl named Lily came into the clinic with her mother. She was shy and hesitant, clutching a stuffed animal to her chest. Emily knelt down to greet her. "Hi there, Lily. I'm Dr. Emily. What brings you here today?" Lily didn't respond, but her mother explained that she had been struggling with anxiety and had trouble opening up to people. Emily smiled and gestured to the photo of Buddy on her desk. "Let me tell you about a very special friend of mine," she said. As Emily shared stories of Buddy's kindness and bravery, Lily's eyes lit up. By the end of the visit, Lily was smiling and even gave Emily a hug. As they left, Emily felt a sense of fulfillment. Buddy's legacy was alive and well, touching lives in ways she could never have imagined. If you liked the story, like the video and subscribe the channel.